Yeah. You're listening to Autodesk's Digital Builder Podcast, a show that inspires construction professionals to innovate and use technology to improve how they build our world. I'm Eric Thomas, and I've been working in construction for nearly a decade. And now I have the privilege to sit down with industry trailblazers to hear how they're solving construction's biggest challenges and redefining the future of the built environment. Welcome back to Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. I am your host, Eric Thomas. Today is the third day of Autodesk University. It is probably halfway through the day, I'd say. We got maybe 3-4 hours at least until the expo closed. And I am joined by Tomislav Zigo, the Chief Technology Officer from Clayco. And today we are going to be talking about scaling your business alongside technology deployment and how to grow your business successfully when growth happens rapidly. And it's not just technology that you have to think about as this growth unfolds. Tomislav, how you doing today?
Eric, great. Happy to be here. You're right. We are counting hours to get out of here. It's a good time. It's been a great AU, a lot of great conversations, and happy to be part of your podcast that I've been faithfully following for all these years.
Thank you so much. It's always great to meet an avid listener. And, I'm excited about our conversation because it's always fun for me to step a little bit outside of the technology conversation and just think about the construction industry at a more broad level. So we're going to have some fun here. And of course, there is a sea of people over to my left. So if you didn't hear me start my introduction, I just want to reiterate, this is the Digital Builder Podcast. And if you care about the AEC industry at all, you should absolutely be listening to the show. So let's dive straight into the conversation today. During your time at Clayco, you've seen a vast range of technologies tested and adopted. Can you tell me a bit how this technology adoption process has evolved in your 15 plus years at the company, especially with the amount of growth that the company has had in those 15 years?
Yeah, listen, that's an excellent question. I mean, we know what's going on these days in construction industry. Just the whole idea of a built environment and changes that are so dynamic. But to be honest, those 15 years, this was a journey. This was not a process. This was not a whim. This was a deliberate journey that we embarked on. And that journey was not just revolving around technology. This journey was more about introspection, understanding who we are as an organization and how our technological aspirations stack against our tacit knowledge, the knowledge that is kind of embedded in our DNA, builders, designers, and then knowing how fast we want to grow. What are the consequences of looking beyond the horizon? What are the consequences of bringing those things beyond the horizon and weaving it into our process? All of those things created that extra spice, extra something that makes my life interesting, hopefully makes the life of my colleagues, my co-workers, people in the field, our designers interesting, with one goal: making them focus on what they're best at doing, which is delivering great projects, designing great buildings, changing the world around us. So technology and the journey of technology is something that seamlessly blends and needs to blend into our growth. And then with something like that, there's always friction.
Yeah.
And this is where we thrive, solving problems that arise from friction.
And I love your focus on just using technology and other processes as a lever there, because I've always felt the role of leaders and managers, regardless of what industry they're working on, is to be removing blockers for their people to let them work and do the work that they're so focused on.
Absolutely.
And even if they're blockers that you're moving that they're not even aware of, or ones they bring to you, your role as that leader is to be like, okay, I want to let you focus on that work you're doing. And, if you're not able to achieve that to some degree as a leader, it's probably worth a question as far as, how effective you're being. But there's so much to unpack there. And I'd like to hear a bit more about that process. So tell me more about how you evaluate new technology and make the decisions about the tools your team will run pilots for, especially considering that growth of your business in the last 15 years.
Bringing something new in a complex organization, and Clayco is really complex. We are like all over the place, multifaceted, multidisciplinary, you name it, we have it, kind of soup to nuts approach. It's really about recognizing where the problems are. So knowing what are you trying to do, what are you attempting to do, is the first step toward understanding which technology are you bringing in, which technology addresses any of the specific issues they have, and then what is the transformative potential of the technology? How is it going to help organization better? And ultimately, and everybody knows that it's not a dirty secret.
Yeah.
We need to make our clients happy. So all of those little bits, little ingredients are really fueling our desire to bring the tech in and start evaluating it properly.
I
Did
love
that
that
answer your
focus.
question?
It does. And I love the focus that you have in there, because, construction has gone through some pretty incredible transformation in the last 5, 10, 15 years. And we went from a minimal amount of purpose-built tools to serve our teams in the ways that we work to an obscene amount of tools that exist that specifically focus on construction.
Mhm.
And it's introduced an interesting both opportunity and challenge in evaluating which ones are going to serve our focus. And if you get too caught up in chasing the shiny new toys without thinking about the problems that you're solving that you so astutely pointed out a moment ago, it's easy to either bring in too many things and overwhelm your teams with too much change or too many options, or you're not solving problems that your team actually has and you're burdening the process because you've brought new things in that doesn't necessarily serve the way that they're trying to work. And so it's a unique moment in time where we have a lot of choices, whether it's hardware or software or some variation of all of those. And we have to make very deliberate decisions on how we bring those into our teams. And, before we could chase all of them, if there was only 5 or 6 or 7 different tools, but, there's hundreds now. I feel like I see a new startup in the construction ecosystem
Every
every
minute.
day. And that's awesome. But it also puts a bit of a burden on our technology leaders to make those choices and figure out how they're going to fill those gaps.
Listen, you're spot on. And I'm old school in a way. I always think that austerity is mother of all inventions. And I firmly believe that sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what are the trends actually that are prevalent. I talk to colleagues all the time. I talk to colleagues outside of Clayco, colleagues that are doing similar work that I do and that are engaged with teams that are really infusing tech in what we do.
Mhm.
Part of our challenge is not finding the right tech, but eliminating the white noise. So how do you, between that white noise with limited resources, because, again, our primary job is to build,
Yes.
design. How do you filter that white noise? How do you find the resources to evaluate, test, push back against that huge ecosystem that really, you're right, it exploded over the last 3 years, $4 billion invested in startups. This year went a little bit down, it's still $2 billion. That's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And for us, the key component is getting that return on investment. It's not just money, it's our effort, it's our ability to align new tech with processes. And at the end of the day, do we want to disrupt for the sake of disruption? Do we want to just bring something because it's a new shiny object? And then, you know what's happening then? Let's say you embark on the process of adoption, that new shiny object. Halfway through the process, there's a new shiny object dangling out there. So I don't want to say we're in a constant damage control mode, but we're in a constant mode of seeing beyond the horizon and trying to anticipate all those things that can kind of push us from the way of meaningfully adopting tech that solves our problems.
In construction, so rife with uncertainty by default, even not considering, our technology deployment, and in finding ways to manage that more successfully, I think is paramount for organizations. But as we think about that tech deployment, I love your point about this happens alongside the work that people are doing every day. And so you have to be so focused on how you message that and how you choose to bring those tools out, because it's overwhelming at times, especially if somebody is stressed out about a schedule duration that they're not excited about, or there's some change conditions that are happening on the project as they're, moving forward in that schedule. And you come in and you go, okay, here's a new thing that you want to try. You have to be very focused about giving them runway, and also runway to fail potentially if something doesn't go well, because if they feel that there's going to be a punitive measure that follows their mistake when you've handed them something new, how much are they going to be eager to embrace that new tool? At least speaking from my personal experience, not very much.
I mean, listen, you and I had this really good conversation from a few weeks ago. There's not a day in my life, and I'm not going to speak just for myself. I'll speak for our team, where we don't feel like a bunch of surgeons performing a open heart surgery in a running patient. Now, it's all in good faith. We need to improve.
Yes.
No question there. We need to transform the industry. I mean, Andrew had a really great spiel earlier this morning saying, hey, we are innovators. We are pushing forward. But at the same time, yes, we need to be cognizant because nobody can be left behind. Everybody on Clayco team matters. What also matters to us is being aligned with our mantra. Our mantra is, beyond these walls. What does it mean? That means no matter what I do, technology-wise or implementation-wise or education-wise, it needs to carry its weight beyond just delivering the building. I firmly believe, I know that I'm in this industry to change the world. Everybody here, you look at 10,000 people here, they're here because they believe in future. They believe in better future. They believe in future of construction and design. Whatever we do needs to be geared toward empowering them, adding inclusivity, expecting diversity, bringing everybody that can contribute in the same fold. We are partnering to change the face of this planet in a good way, hopefully.
And it has to be a partnership. There's
Absolutely.
a relationship there. And the other aspect of it too, I think, is you really hit the nail on the head. It is about the people, both the people that are in the industry that are building and putting their lives into this environment and enthusiastically embracing it because they just love building and being a part of how they change humanity.
You can't leave them behind.
No, absolutely
that's what we do. I would fail. Our team would fail. We as company would fail if all of a sudden we are introducing a new paradigm that it's not just disruptive, but also creates a second or a third class citizen within the company. Technology is enabler for everybody to feel appreciated and empowered.
And I love the common data environments we're stepping into and the platforms we're taking advantage of, because no longer do we have, John in estimating who either by deliberateness because he wants to be important or by accident because his file management is bad, has data sequestered on his computer or a server or a folder, and nobody has equitable access to that. Now we're changing that. We're making sure people have the ability to make these choices and, really empower their teams to feel like they have the visibility they deserve to, but also have the information they can to make choices and decisions and inform that alongside the experience that they have because they've been building for years and really bring this to the table.
Correct.
But I want to shift our narrative a little bit. And our conversation we had a couple days ago was a bit more broad than this technology piece, but I think it's a great foundation. So if we shift and we think about scaling a business beyond technology deployment, I think it's fair to say that when many construction companies experience growth, it's very rapid. You might win a big project. You might win a bunch of big projects. And so this growth is exciting, but it also introduces a number of challenges into the way that we work. So can you tell me a bit more about how this growth and what it means alongside the processes, the leadership structure, your workflows, and your tech deployment? How do we look at this closer and think about all the other traps or opportunities for potential failure for your organization as it grows alongside your tech scaling? Like, what's the broad picture? Where are the risks at?
Listen, this industry we live in, we work in, one could argue it's really a foundation of our civilization.
Absolutely. I say all the time that every human in the world touches the construction industry.
Needs shelter.
Even if they never think about it.
Absolutely. We need the shelter from day one.
Yep.
So we are just creating more fancy shelters, which is fine. It's great. But listen, we operate within a society. We are stewards of that society. So we are investing in human capital. We are investing in us recognizing that we also need to bridge the gap. There's a convergence. There's a convergence of industries enabled by technology again, but it's a convergence of industries. There's a cultural convergence. We need to find the ways how to harness that potential of that convergence and retool our industry to be something more. One of the things that we are focusing on to start thinking about project, we need to start thinking about the product. It's a whole shift. It's a part of the digital transformation that started 80 years ago, but touches all of our lives. So I'm a firm believer that we will not succeed unless we invest tenfold more in workforce of the future that will know how to navigate perils of AI. We don't know whether this is untapped territory. Perils of AI, perils of quantum computing, perils of society changing. So all of these things are kind of focus of what we do, and it needs to stay that way.
It's such a unique situation when you scale at that degree that we're talking about right now, because we're pushing the technology piece aside.
Sure.
But like, think about your leaders and how their skill set scale as a business goes from 500 million to $1 billion business in a year or two, or, you know, even more than that. How do we ensure that we're empowering those leaders to make those, you know, those steps of growth with the company to do better by their people too? There's a lot of risk in there. And, you know, not everybody has all the answers, but it is hard work to grow with the business.
Tremendous amount of work that needs to be put. And but listen, but also I think part of this equation is to clear the way for a clear thinking. You need to maintain your zero focus on success, because success is the generator of any advancements we make in anything we do as humans. And then these leaders need to be empowered through knowledge sharing. These leaders need to be empowered through engagement. These leaders need to be empowered through cross-disciplinary, cross-industry conversation. Because we only know a few tricks, but I'm telling you, I don't mind stealing from those that know better how to do it than I do. So dialogue, conversation, communication, being engaged in society, tapping in untapped potential. You know, we saw great examples of empowering parts of our society and bring them closer. You know, what Ryan Reynolds said yesterday, it was amazing, very powerful. I mean, just the fact that he's a funny guy.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
That helped.
I want to hang out with him. I was trying to get him on here, and they said no.
You didn't manage?
Reason.
Oh,
no,
man.
Unfortunately not.
But, you know, all of these bits and pieces add. Education is absolutely part of that equation.
Could you tell me a bit more about the other parts of a growing business that an organization should really be focused on as they scale? So imagine we're talking about that company again that has grown in a year or two from 500 million to, you know, $1.2 billion in revenue. Like, what else outside of this management piece that we're talking about in our people needs to scale to ensure that that business is going to be successful and their people are, you know, happy at the end of the day?
Workforce environment changed profoundly in the last 2 years. Being nimble, being flexible is something that actually created the room for growth and rethinking how we do business. That process just started. I think we are about to see more disruptive, more in-depth changes as we move along. Now, workforce is coming back. However, it's coming back in a different environment.
Absolutely.
Different infrastructure. Companies need to keep up with advancements. It's not just technology advancements. It's kind of philosophy of work that needs to inform myself, leaders, everybody that is working in our environment. How do we bring everybody and make them feel being part of a success? You know what I mean? I mean, it's every incremental change, every good habit that we bring in an organization, and we have the stamina to keep up on that path will change who we are. So I don't think I have a universal answer. How do we scale other parts? Because there's so many parts of our business.
But I understand what you're saying. In the way that we think about how we embrace the way people work has changed so much, as you pointed out. I'm a fully remote worker these days. And granted, I'm not building something, so my situation is a little bit different. But I am really encouraged by the way the narrative in how construction embraces remote work has shifted in recent years, because I think it introduces opportunity for our businesses. You have a chance to tap a data scientist who lives in Idaho working on a project in Montana, or vice versa.
Absolutely.
You're able to bring in more diverse voices and people who have skill sets that really will bring a lot to the table for our industry, especially folks that might not have those skill sets that are working here today.
Listen, it also changed the way we communicate. The way we communicate today is more pointed, maybe more direct. Maybe we value our time better.
Absolutely.
We are finding those efficiencies that maybe we were taking for granted when we were all gathered together. And now I think there's a new synergy of workplace that brings people together for a specific purpose to solve a specific problem at a given time. So time is a commodity that became very, very valuable in this fast-paced changing industry. We are dealing with shortages of resources. We are dealing with challenges in procurement chain. We are dealing with shorter project schedules.
Yeah, they continue to shrink.
Everything is shrinking.
Expectations
are exploding. Actually, I think the expectations are raising the bar.
I think that's accurate.
And I think we are in the process where what we do as companies puts us in a better place to start negotiating what are our common expectations, not expectations only on the part of the contractor, for example, but hey, Mr. Client, how am I making you better?
I'm really loving to see the focus and the shift in how owners and your clients are thinking about this too, because the more progressively they think about the technology they want or what they want to do and achieve in the operations phase, and the earlier they can communicate, the bigger impact it has for the contractors, even from just when you're putting things out to bid. So I say this from a slightly jaded former proposal manager. I've gotten a lot of bad RFPs in my life. I've seen a lot of nasty RFPs where either they were ambiguous or full of copy pasted material from a different project, or just weren't clear enough in what they wanted. And that does the owner a disadvantage because one, they're not getting apples to apples bids. And so it's harder for them to parse what they're receiving, but it's also such an opportunity for them to say, I want a digital twin because I want to do this. This is the type of platform I want to use because this is the visibility I expect in my project. There's so much there to unpack.
There's another twist to it. And this is what I've started to notice recently. Businesses change, new businesses emerge. I've seen owners that are also willing to partner up with experienced builders like we are and really benefit from our tacit knowledge being transferred to them so they can create those RFQs and RFPs slightly better.
I love that.
More pointedly, and actually say, hey, we are expecting a great product, but we don't know anything about how the product is being delivered. Let's talk to those that know. So it goes both ways. This is not a one-way road.
Yep. And it really shouldn't be. And I feel like we're starting to be more progressive in our delivery methods. Yep. Integrated project delivery, some people side-eye that, some people embrace it.
Not us.
But I think just this circular conversation empowers everybody to be better informed and make better choices at the end of the day. And there's a lot that comes from that.
And this amazing common data environment, and I'm not making a pitch. It's a real empowerment. It's a foundation for that communication to be clear, concise, avoid redundancy, and something that is very dear to me. Eliminate 80% of the data that is completely useless. Let's focus on things that matter. Let's focus on things that are propelling our businesses, our technology, and our economy forward.
I love that. And of course, I think a lot of folks have been gathering data just for the sake of gathering data. And I'm not saying you should stop doing that, but there's an opportunity to step back and go, what the heck do we want to do?
Be smarter about it.
Yes. And that really improves the choices you make. And it also means that the tools that you adopt are going to be using better data. It's going to be standardized. It's going to be more impactful, and everybody's going to be happier at the end of the day. You're no longer having those dashboards where you super got it and you read it and you went, okay, I made a choice on this and it was the wrong one because the data was wrong. And then he goes, I'm never going to use data ever again. You only get to make that first impression once. But if you build that tech stack in a way that shows them this is helpful and helps you with that gut decision you're making, it's going to put everybody in a better position. And there's a lot of work there. I'm not trying to be flippant and saying, no, your data strategy, tomorrow you're done.
We have a ton of work ahead of us. Data strategy is one of the most critical components of our business. And if there's anybody in this room today, and it's 10,000 people, and they don't think their data strategy, I'm sorry, you'll be left behind.
Absolutely. It's no longer a nice to have. It's a requirement to being a competitive business.
Correct.
Yeah. So I've got two final questions for you today. First off, I'm sitting here with the CTO of a very large company, so I want to hear a bit about what your excitement is with industry trends. So tell me, what are you most fired up with technology right now, and what do you think is going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years?
there's a paradigm shift. We see it coming. We're anticipating. Now, it didn't happen overnight. That technology has been around for the last 20 years. I think let's call it what it is. But there are a few things that are kind of dear to my heart. Concept of situational awareness that really brings all the aspects of everything we talked about, brings or elevates our understanding of the process, of the product, of the labor into one ecosystem. So I think we'll start seeing that shift toward institutionalizing situational awareness across all of our jobs. I also believe in the vast potential of quantum computing. Yeah, it's always around the corner, but things are accelerating. I mean, I would encourage everybody to look beyond what likes of Autodesk are doing. There's another world of technology that is lurking, and it's maybe out of our reach now, but it's gonna come soon, and it's gonna come heavy. Quantum is gonna make a difference. And then another part that is really, it's been around. I mean, we talked about it, evolving those concepts into sustainability, not only of technology, but our business, sustainability of society. So, and management of resources needs to improve. I think those will be fundamental changes and objectives that if we want to stay relevant in next 5-10 years, we better start focusing on those.
I love those answers, and it all really does interconnect. And I think you're the first person that's brought up quantum computing on Digital Builder, and it's a technology that, as you just pointed out, there's more happening right now.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know enough about it. I'm not even going to pretend like I do to have a strong opinion there, but I do know that the potential, if we do unlock these tools, is going to be exciting. I remember there was a paper circulating maybe a couple months ago that made it seem like the room temperature quantum computing was far more attainable, and then they found out that that was a little bit, hogwash.
We go through ups and downs, but if you really look what universities in the country are doing, what are they investing in? They're investing in quantum computing, and then again, that and the convergence of AI, maybe availability of inexpensive energy will fuel what we are seeing now. I'm telling you, maybe 20 years from now, you and I will get together here, much better, younger looking.
I look forward to that conversation.
This is going to be completely different conversation.
I think you're right. And regardless of what direction the technology goes, everything is so rapidly evolving. And I think it just shows how nimble our technology leaders need to be in their mindsets and how they think about the tools that they're deploying, but also what comes next, because we have to be able to be nimble as we're able to. And, obviously at an organization of the size of Clayco, nimbleness has its own restraints and restrictions, but you have to be progressively thinking about it to remain competitive.
Let me make a little correction here.
Okay, please.
All of us at any level of organizational structure need to become technology leaders.
I'd agree with you on that.
That is a fundamental shift that needs to happen. Technology is a pencil of 21st century. We all need to be literate and know how to use it. And I think it's not reserved only for selected.
And I think the exciting point now is, for years and years, it was just the VDC team most of the time that touched all these tools. They felt that they had the skill sets, and the tools were far more complicated to be used, if we're being honest. But as the UIs become more accessible, the cost of these tools becomes more accessible. Now, I think we're all better empowered to use these tools in a way that even 5 years ago, folks didn't either feel they had the skill set to be empowered to use, or they just weren't being offered to them. So I really do like your point there, because it is an important nuance to have.
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, democratization of technology, of resources is key to our success.
Yeah. And that maps back to data as well. It's all a big ecosystem. So one more question for you today. What is one tool that you'll use on any project, no matter what project you're working on?
One tool I use on every project. Well, I'm sorry, but it's still an email. It's an instant communication. It's a communication or suite of tools that are empowering and enabling communication are tools that we just can't live without.
I'd agree with you there.
It's,
I lean on Slack more heavily these days than I did email, but I think each serves its purpose, and it really depends on what you're trying to do. Slack is more of a real time. We're having a conversation figured out. Email, I think, is more of a, okay, here's a formal thing that we all want everybody to think about.
How we communicate.
Or you're, maybe paper trailing and yelling at somebody. That might serve email.
How we communicate profoundly impacts how well we deliver the job. So
absolutely,
it is what it is.
Well, Tomislav, thank you so much for joining me today on Digital Builder. And of course, the Sea of Humanity off to my left. If you are still listening to us and haven't tuned us out entirely, of course, this is Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. I am your host, Eric Thomas. If you want to check out episodes of the show, we are a video-first podcast. I'm surrounded by cameras for a very good reason, at least I tell myself that. So you can head over to the Autodesk Construction Cloud YouTube channel and check out that backlog. Of course, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you go for podcasts. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Eric Thomas. You can find me on Twitter at builder_digital. If you like the show, please rate us. It makes a big difference. And otherwise, until next time, goodbye.